This whole idea of retiring is wonderful, and it makes a lot of sense to retire. But here's the thing. When you're deciding to retire as a couple or individually, there's some really serious questions that you need to get the answers to before you make that move. Wouldn't you agree?
I wouldn't only say there's questions, there's just conversations you need to have with yourself, with your partner, with your family, just about what the context of the next 30 years are going to be for you.
Yeah, because we get caught up in leaving our career, the last day, all that's exciting. But then you end up together on a Monday morning wondering, what are we going to do now? And if you can't go through some planning, a little bit of planning, you're really going to run into trouble. You know, this whole idea of divorce in America is down, but gray divorce is up substantially, people over the age of 65. So this collision that happens when you get into retirement without really knowing the answer to some of these questions can really be a problem. So today we're going to share some topics that we think will help you settle down, get a little more purposeful on what life looks like in the future to eliminate any problems that might come up.
Well, retirement hits the top 10 lists of the most stressful times in people's lives. And yet we actually don't want to look at it as that huge transition. We almost want to look at it like, that was the goal.
Right.
So you get there, and, with a lot of goals, you get there and then it's over. And with retirement, you don't want to get there and have it be over because it is your life, right? You want to get there and spring forward. So I think these questions and this discussion today might help you as you're looking at this transition.
And maybe you're thinking, gosh, why do you guys make such a big deal out of this? Well, it's the number one thing that we find with many of the couples that we coach, that they enter retirement and then they get lost and they get confused and they just don't know what to do. Now, one of the spouses might have a good plan, but doesn't necessarily line up with the other person.
Right.
Or they haven't shared it.
Yep. Exactly.
So pay attention today because I think this is really good. Now, if you're new here, I'm Mark and this is my wife, Jody.
And we don't focus on the financial aspects of retirement, but rather your lifestyle, your health, your relationships, and more.
So please hit the subscribe button. That way you get notified when the new videos come out. But more importantly, we would love for you to share this video or others with people that you really care about who are on this journey too.
So let's talk a little bit about why this topic came up for us. Not just our clients and couples and individuals or solo retirees that we coach, but our kids, specifically two of our daughters. One has moved in with her boyfriend, and she was telling us everything they went through before they moved in terms of getting on the same page and tactics that they used, like real strategies that they employed. It wasn't just like, hey, do you want to move in? Yeah, I want to move in. They actually went through exercises together to answer what they considered their big questions.
It's funny. I'm just thinking, I didn't do that when I first moved in with my girlfriend. Did you?
Did you move in with your girlfriend?
Well, maybe 50 years ago.
Who's the girl?
Well, she's not in my life anymore, but at the
okay.
time. But did you do that?
I didn't, but I think...
And the reason I brought that up is I wonder if our kids are more in tune to society. I don't really know. What inspired them to do that?
I think it's...
Because we're trying to inspire people to do this in retirement, and people say, I don't need to do that.
That was kind of the correlation that brought this topic up, right? They use tactics that they've learned to put their cards on the table, literally 3x5 cards, writing down what you're most excited about, what you're most fearful of, what you're concerned or, what you want to do or what your long-term goals are.
Well, your roles in the house,
right.
too.
But they actually take the time to do that. And what really kind of sparked the interest to me was when people move into retirement, it's almost like they're moving back in together.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because, if you think about it, you have your career, you're gone 8-10 hours a day. Sometimes you travel on business, the other person's home. When you retire, you're kind of mano a mano, as they say, right? One-on-one with that person. And yet you haven't taken the time to ask yourself or each other the big questions.
It's really got me thinking, because we're going to get into this in a second, but this would be a great mini course for us to develop, to have people go through a 5-day...
5 days.
7-day challenge.
Oh, okay.
moving in together in retirement. I mean,
Yeah.
it is like you just said, it's almost like you're moving in together because we're both home all day.
Yeah.
And for us, it's even different because we work.
I mean, I have a lot of friends whose husbands leave Monday morning and come back Thursday night because they're consultants or they're bankers or they're private equity guys and they're kind of traveling. When they're done all that work, they're with them,
Yeah.
all day and all night. And there's two different kind of worlds that begin to collide.
Yeah.
So I really think this will be a great topic today. So
Yeah.
we should probably get into
So
it.
before we jump into it, there's a link below to a relationship toolkit that Jody and I developed that's really a great exercise to go through to kind of get your relationship grounded before you jump in. So download that and take a look at it. But the first, we're going to give you categories. So the first category is expectations about daily life. So questions like, how do we envision an average day in our retirement?
Right.
And I think if I answer that and you answer it, then you can compare answers. How much time do we expect to spend together versus apart on hobbies or
Right.
sports or whatever it might be, or any other activity? So expectations about daily life is an important category, I think.
I think that's a really important category and one that people just kind of gloss over.
Right.
The second category is just around communication and conflict resolution. Questions like how do we improve our communication as we begin to spend all this time together? And what strategies can we use to resolve any or all disagreements? I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, we Jody and I have worked really hard on this, and I guess I can say this. Jody has a tendency to react to something I say versus respond. Is that fair? How does that?
Not all the time.
I didn't say all the time.
Okay.
Just
You don't have
three-
those tendencies too?
Okay, here we go. See now,
No,
now
teasing.
you're reacting. You're not responding. But that's the typical nature for humans. I think is to when you hear something and if it's a little bit caustic, you just want to react, and that's bad. And I think at the end with the next video we talk about really does that. But the idea of actually listening, carefully listening, and responding is much better than reacting.
Yeah, so that broad topic of communication and conflict resolution is a big one.
Well, the other change that takes place, or a topic you need to talk about, is what are your roles in the house? I love to cook, and I've always loved to cook, so I kind of do the cooking. That really hasn't changed. But there are other responsibilities, like, we have company come, we have to make the beds and change the sheets and all that. So are there things that need to be redistributed when you both find yourself at home to make it fair?
And to be fair, you love to cook and you're a good cook.
Hate to shop.
You don't love to grocery shop. And by the way, I don't love to grocery shop either, but one of us has to do it.
Right.
So if I know a good meal's coming, I'll go, kind of take one for the team at the grocery store.
And you're good at that. And I think that's, where you're doing something you don't really want to do,
Right.
but you're doing it for the team, which we've worked through. But there's a lot of people that don't, they just fight all the time about who's going to do that.
Right.
You said you'd cook. You don't want to cook. Taking the garbage out. Maintenance people, the air conditioning doesn't work, all of that. So
Yeah. The next big topic is maintaining individuality, which, in retirement, if you do have a spouse or partner, you want to make sure that you're asking questions around how do we support each other in pursuing individual interests or goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we did a goal sharing session this year, and our goals aren't always the same, but I was looking for you to support some of the things I have, and you were doing the same.
did I?
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah, great.
It's only February.
Social connections. This is going to be a big change when you both retire. How are we going to maintain, how am I going to maintain my individual friendships?
Right.
And also our friendships as a couple. Mm-hmm. And we both, have that. We have couple friends and individual friends, and that's really important. So we need to give each other time for that. And are there new circles or communities that we want to get involved in, either separately or together? Again, this is part of the dreaming part of retirement, so you don't wonder really what's going to happen.
Right. The next big topic is intimacy and affection.
Yeah, my favorite topic.
How do you keep your relationship vibrant and maintain intimacy in retirement? Again, if you have a job where you travel or your spouse or partner travels, and then you only get to see each other 2 or 3 days a week, it might be a little easier to be intimate, to be affectionate, because the timing is short. So you really want to ask yourself, are there ways you want to connect and spend quality time together when you have quantities of time?
Yeah, I think it's so important for each partner to either up their game or they continue their game to show the other person that you desire them intimately and shower them with affection.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong by doing that. And you probably did that in the very beginning. And then, 38 years later, you retire and things change.
Right.
Your bodies change, your attitudes change, your desire change. But you really need to show intimacy and affection towards the partner. And then just the change that we're going to go through, how are we going to support each other through the physical and emotional change that come with aging?
Right. So it's a broad category in and of itself, right? Adapting to change together as you grow old.
Encouraging ourselves.
Yeah.
We eat better. We go to the gym together. Our health issues. I've got some health issues. You don't seem to have any. But we really need to support each other and talk about that as we age. And who's going to take care of us?
Right.
I mean,
I don't know. I don't know who's going to. We have 6 kids and we can't come up with one that will take care of us.
Well, the other category that's really important, and this is really where it can be fun, is having shared goals and dreams.
Yeah.
What are our shared goals for our retirement? And we talk about this often and we pivot often because things change as we get older. But are there dreams or bucket list items you want to achieve together?
Yeah, that's a great question in that category, I think, for sure. The next big category is family dynamics, right? How will retirement affect your roles and relationships with your family, especially your children and grandchildren? And we find this with some couples that we mentor, some clients that are couples of ours. And, it's just hard. Sometimes you have different views. Some of us want children and grandchildren around all the time, like whenever, however, as much as we can take. And, you have to balance that with maybe your spouse or partner's needs that maybe they don't want that.
Well, it's not just the kids, it's the parents.
Right.
So we are both through that phase of caring for our aging parents because they're all gone, right?
Well, I still have Pop.
We have Pop.
He's coming
tomorrow. But, taking care of our elderly parents is a big responsibility too. And, when you're married in a relationship, who's going to drive to Philadelphia? Who's going to fly out to California? It really is important. The last topic that really is important to talk about and get answers to these questions is around legacy and values. What values do we want to emphasize as a couple or leave as a legacy in this phase of our lives?
And really, how can you work together to contribute to your family, your community, and the causes that you care about to leave those legacies? That's really important to get on the same page early as you move through this phase of life.
So these 10 buckets of categories we talked about, we hope you wrote notes. If you didn't, go back, write these down, look at the questions, and sit with your partner and go over some of these questions before you retire. Just like our kids are doing when they're moving in together. Do this as you move in together to retirement to make it a much better transition.
This is not a transition that you should take lightly, and it's not a transition that should scare the pants off you either. It is a transition that you will get through, but you need to be mindful.
Now, we hope you liked this video. If you did this next one, Better Relationships in Retirement, we spend the entire time on the video talking about communicating with each other and do a deep dive on responding versus reacting. So watch this one next.